The movie begins with Teddy, a man driving a stolen, shot-up police car, speeding down a busy Nevada highway. It's clear he's on the run, but as he pulls off the highway, the car begins to smoke and grinds to a halt. With no other option, Teddy grabs his bag and sprints toward the nearest town, his desperation palpable. Not far away, Officer Valerie is practicing cowboy tricks before joining her partner Mitchell, who gifts her a shiny new gun while eating. Their peace is short-lived as a call comes through the radio, sending them to break up a fight. The pair arrive at the scene, finding a group of people embroiled in heated arguments. Valerie, ever the peacemaker, tries to calm the crowd, but when they shove her, she fires her pistol into the air, silencing everyone. Just as things settle, Teddy suddenly appears and accidentally knocks Valerie face first to the ground. Apologizing for the unintended force, he's met with no sympathy. Valerie tushes him twice for good measure, before loading him into their cruiser and arresting him for assaulting a police officer. At the police station, Teddy undergoes a thorough search. While officers inspect his belongings, Teddy notices a shadow outside, suggesting he might have intentionally sought arrest for protection. During the search, Valerie discovers a gunshot wound on Teddy's stomach and interrogates him about it, but he remains tight-lipped. Meanwhile, Officer Huber behaves oddly, clearly unsettled since Teddy's arrival. In another room, Mitchell receives a call reporting a bullet-riddled car found nearby. As he processes this, an out-of-control car barrels into the station's lot. The intoxicated driver is quickly subdued and arrested. The officers, distracted by the incident, fail to piece together how all these events might be connected. Valerie tends to Teddy's wound, once again trying to get him to talk, but he refuses. When Mitchell confronts him with questions about the car, Teddy evades, demanding his one phone call. As he dials, a news report plays in the background revealing the assassination of an attorney general in a suspected gang-related hit. His call goes unanswered, so Teddy leaves a desperate voicemail for someone named Ryan, warning them to flee their home immediately as it's no longer safe. Frustrated, Valerie locks Teddy in a holding cell, leaving him to his thoughts. Meanwhile, the intoxicated driver is processed. Without identification and carrying an unusual object, he's placed in a cell with another drunk driver. The officers remain unaware of the growing tension in their small station. Inside his cell, Teddy tries to strike up a conversation with one of the detainees, but the atmosphere shifts dramatically when the man introduces himself as Bob. Teddy quickly realizes this is the assassin who has been hunting him. It dawns on Teddy that Bob has intentionally gotten himself arrested to get closer to him. The realization deepens Teddy's fear, especially when Bob chillingly recites the address of Teddy's ex-wife and child. The implication is clear. Bob is threatening them to ensure Teddy's silence. Despite his growing anxiety, Teddy stands his ground, defiantly telling Bob that he's untouchable. In another part of the station, Officer Huber receives a cryptic message reading, "Where's our stuff?" Acting quickly, Huber grabs a duffel bag and heads to the evidence locker. Once inside, he begins replacing plastic evidence bags with items from his own bag. As he works, Officer Barnes walks in. Startled, Huber hastily hides the duffel bag and brushes off Barnes' concern about his nervous behavior, claiming he's just dealing with the stresses of the job. Barnes, while unconvinced, leaves without further pressing. Meanwhile, Valerie and Officer Pena share a light-hearted moment in the break room, engaging in a mock gunslinger duel. Valerie emerges as the playful victor, bringing a moment of levity to the otherwise tense station. However, back in the holding cells, the atmosphere is anything but light. The tension between Teddy and Bob continues to escalate. Teddy, desperate to navigate the situation, brings up Bob's notorious reputation, trying to appeal to his ego. As a gamble, he offers Bob money, but Bob coldly retorts, hinting that the money might be the very sum Teddy has already taken. The identity of them, Bob's employers or collaborators, remains an ominous mystery. Bob's ominous warnings grow sharper as he glances at his wristwatch, its countdown ticking closer to 0. He cryptically warns Teddy that his time is running out. Teddy, though terrified, refuses to let his fear show. Meanwhile, Valerie heads to Mitchell's office. She informs him about Teddy's suspicious history, 22 arrests with 0 convictions. She also suspects Teddy of stealing the bullet-ridden police car found earlier, but admits she hasn't found hard evidence to prove it. Mitchell, however, seems distracted, furiously shouting for Huber. His mounting frustration drives him to search the entire station, even peeking into bathroom stalls. But Huber is nowhere to be found. Unbeknownst to Mitchell, Huber is indeed in one of the bathroom stalls, engaged in a hushed phone call. He reveals to the person on the other end that he's taken a key and a half, and cryptically implies he's now indebted to them. ready to follow their directives. Huber's voice is tense, hinting at the seriousness of his situation. Back in the holding cells, Bob's countdown nears its end. His cellmate, beginning to regain consciousness, becomes a source of irritation. The man, groggy and incoherent, vomits and starts mumbling nonsense, which only fuels Bob's annoyance. As the tension builds, it becomes increasingly clear that the events unfolding in the station are about to come to a dangerous head. When the timer on Bob's mysterious device hits 0, smoke fills the station, triggering the alarms. Amid the chaos, Bob's cellmate, now sobered but still clueless about Bob's lethal skills, foolishly taunts him, calling him weak and issuing empty threats. Bob, never one to tolerate insolence, strikes with brutal efficiency. He slams the man against the cell bars, then delivers a series of devastating blows, leaving him unconscious. In a cunning move, Bob and Teddy both start shouting, pretending the man is having a violent episode. Outside, Officer Kimball dismisses the smoke as a false alarm and requests a fire extinguisher. However, the noise draws Mitchell to the holding area. As he enters the cells, Teddy tries to warn him about Bob, but it's too late. Bob knocks Mitchell unconscious in a flash. Seizing the moment, Bob grabs Mitchell's gun and fires at Teddy, missing narrowly. The sound draws reinforcements, and as officers rush in, Bob snatches the captain's keys, intent on finishing Teddy off. Before he can act, the metallic click of a gun's hammer freezes him in his tracks. Valerie stands in the doorway, her weapon trained on Bob. She sternly warns him that she won't hesitate to shoot if he makes a move. Seeing no way out, Bob surrenders and is promptly cuffed to the cell's iron bars. As Mitchell regains consciousness, gasping for air, Valerie takes charge. She orders the injured inmate to be taken to the infirmary, and with quick thinking and medical skill, she stabilizes him. Meanwhile, Huber receives a shady directive to erase Bob's records. Attempting to access the files on Kimball's computer, he's denied access and startled by Kimball's sudden arrival. Thinking quickly, Huber fabricates a plausible excuse, deflecting suspicion for the time being. Back in the holding area, Valerie confronts Teddy and Bob. Both men are initially tight-lipped, but when Valerie threatens to put Teddy back in the same cell as Bob, the fear in his eyes is unmistakable. Under pressure, Teddy starts talking. He reveals that he's no ordinary man. He's a consultant who connects dots between powerful figures, including police officers, politicians, and global leaders. His network is vast, and his information is dangerous. Hearing this, Bob interjects, warning Valerie that pursuing the truth will drag her into a deadly web of corruption. Undeterred, Valerie signals for Teddy to continue. He reveals that the recent assassination of the Nevada Attorney General wasn't random. It was orchestrated by influential players in the gaming industry, individuals with connections so deep and far-reaching they could influence global politics. Teddy was supposed to broker a deal with the Attorney General, but when the AG refused, things went south. Teddy further explains that the Attorney General secretly recorded all their conversations, creating evidence that could expose the conspirators. As Teddy shares this, Bob sarcastically interrupts, accusing Teddy of spinning stories and urging him to confess how he siphoned millions from these dangerous figures. Teddy counters Bob's accusation by claiming that federal agents are aware of the elaborate scam. Though Bob finds this assertion hard to believe, Valerie, eager to uncover the full story, presses Teddy to continue. The narrative takes a dramatic turn as Teddy recounts an attempt on his life. He explains how 2 corrupt officers abducted him and planned to execute him in the desert. However, an FBI vehicle trailing them intervened, leading to a chaotic shootout. During the confusion, Teddy managed to sneak into a police car and make his daring escape. Valerie, skeptical but wanting to verify his story, instructs Kimball to send officers to investigate the alleged crime scene. However, the officers report back that the area is pristine, with no evidence of any incident. This discovery deepens the mystery. Meanwhile, as they wait for the ambulance to arrive, Kimball mentions that Huber had been asking about Bob's fingerprints, raising Valerie's suspicions about Huber's possible involvement in the broader conspiracy. Back in the holding area, Bob and Teddy engage in a surprisingly deep conversation. Bob struggles to understand why Teddy would abandon a life of wealth and luxury, while Teddy maintains that his actions were necessary for reasons Bob couldn't possibly understand. Hoping to corroborate Teddy's claims, Valerie contacts Detective Dina, stationed at the Nevada border. Unbeknownst to Valerie, Dina is a compromised officer working with the very syndicate hunting Teddy. Dina falsely reports that Teddy's wife and child have been found dead but claims there are no deceased officers at the desert site. A clear lie. Simultaneously, Bob's fingerprint analysis reveals links to several high-profile associates, further complicating the case. As this information comes to light, a van pulls up in front of the station. A man emerges, clutching a bouquet of balloons. Inside the station, Kimball notices a screen displaying the name Anthony Lamb and realizes the man walking into the station matches the photo on his computer. Kimball finds the timing uncanny and chuckles, but his amusement is cut short when Anthony Lamb suddenly shoots him in the head, killing him instantly. Feigning the role of a station worker, Anthony directs the arriving paramedics to Kimball's lifeless body. As they assess the scene, Anthony coldly eliminates them as well, adding to the bloodbath. Amused by the irony, he chuckles at the blood splatter now staining his own photo on the computer screen. The chaos escalates as Officer Pena bursts into the room, gun drawn. Anthony's reflexes, however, are lightning fast, and Pena becomes his next victim. Hearing the commotion, Valerie confronts Anthony, weapon at the ready, but he unleashes a hail of bullets, forcing her to retreat. Inside the infirmary, the situation takes a grim turn. Huber, now fully revealing his betrayal, kills Mitchell in cold blood and decides to finish off the injured inmate as well. Navigating the station's corridors, Valerie dashes for cover as Anthony's bullets rain down. Desperate and running out of options, she retreats behind a door and begins working frantically to alter the security code for an adjacent room, fearing the current one may already be compromised. As the station spirals into chaos, the intricate web of deceit, betrayal, and deadly intent begins to tighten, leaving Valerie, Teddy, and anyone still alive scrambling for survival. As Valerie works to change the security code, the machine processing the update takes agonizingly long, while bullets continue to barrage the reinforced door. After what feels like an eternity, a bullet finally punctures a hole in the thick glass. Valerie dives through the second door just as it seals shut, providing her with much-needed protection. Teddy immediately points out that she's been hit by a stray bullet. Injured but determined, Valerie radios for assistance, only to be met with chilling silence, confirming her worst fear. They're the only ones left alive in the station, aside from Huber and Anthony. Anthony gains entry through the first door, his overconfidence on full display. He fires recklessly, nearly injuring himself with a ricochet. Standing back up, he casually greets Bob, striking up a conversation through the cell bars. Bob, aware of Anthony's unpredictability, urges him to clear the contract on Teddy and promises to personally kill Teddy himself. Anthony dismisses Bob's suggestion, arrogantly asserting he'll find his own way to finish the job. Before walking off, Anthony cryptically warns that time is running out for everyone inside. Valerie attempts to radio for help again, but the station's silence remains unbroken. Suddenly, a knock echoes through the reinforced door. Valerie looks up to see Huber, claiming Anthony has left the station. Suspicious, she cautiously engages him in conversation. Huber informs her that Mitchell is dead and asks for the updated passcode, but Valerie presses him about his earlier interest in Bob's fingerprints. Huber slips, accidentally saying Bob's name, a detail only Valerie and Kimball should know. Realizing she's caught him, Valerie accuses Huber of betrayal, labeling him a scum who turned on his fellow officers. Enraged, Huber begins swearing at her. In a surreal twist, Anthony reappears, singing loudly, a clear sign of his deteriorating mental state. He and Huber hatch a plan to breach Teddy's cell by breaking through the wall of an adjoining room. Moments later, a loud bang echoes as the wall begins to crack under their efforts. Inside the holding area, both Bob and Teddy plead with Valerie to throw them the keys, each promising to help sort out the chaos. After a tense moment, Valerie decides to give the key to Teddy, along with her pistol. Bob seizes the opportunity to press Valerie for the truth about Teddy's family. Reluctantly, Valerie apologizes and confirms they are dead. Teddy, heartbroken, sheds a tear before confronting Bob. He demands to know if Bob was responsible for their deaths. Bob denies it, revealing that Anthony was the likely culprit. Fueled by rage and grief, Teddy steps out of the cell block, shedding his hesitation and preparing for a fight. Meanwhile, two patrol officers return to the station and immediately sense something is wrong. They discover bullets scattered across the floor and follow the sounds of banging to find Huber and Anthony demolishing a wall. Before they can intervene, Anthony swiftly guns them down. One officer pleads for his life, swearing secrecy, but Anthony mercilessly finishes off his partner and orders Huber to kill the surviving officer. The chaos escalates when Teddy emerges from his hiding spot and fires at the duo, forcing them to retreat. Back in the cell block, Bob slyly frees himself from his restraints and tries to persuade Valerie to hand him the keys. When she refuses, Bob warns her that Teddy isn't coming back. He tells her bluntly that if she wants to survive and see her loved ones again, she should give him the keys, promising she wouldn't regret the decision. Valerie, torn between her instincts and the chaos around her, hesitates. Meanwhile, Teddy roams the station armed with a submachine gun he found. His focus sharpened as he hears Anthony singing somewhere in the distance. He fires into the dark hallways, his shots missing their mark. Anthony, ever the unpredictable psychopath, cuts the power and turns the hot showers on full blast, shrouding the area in dense steam. Teddy moves cautiously, every muscle tensed, waiting for the slightest movement. Huber, seeing an opportunity amidst the chaos, tries to flee, but narrowly dodges Teddy's bullets. Relieved he's escaped, Huber lets his guard down, only to find himself held at gunpoint by Bob. With a sadistic smirk, Bob smacks Huber, steals his belt and kneecaps him. Not content with physical punishment, Bob tushes Huber relentlessly and sprays pepper spray into his bullet wounds, eliciting screams of agony. In the steam-filled corridors, Teddy and Anthony circle each other like predators. Anthony finds an opening and fires, believing he's killed Teddy, but upon closer inspection, he realizes he's accidentally shot Huber instead. Before Anthony can regroup, Bob attacks him from behind, throwing him around like a rag doll. Anthony manages to stab Bob with a knife during the struggle, but Bob retaliates, using Anthony's own weapon against him. Injured and incapacitated, Anthony becomes helpless. The conflict comes to a tense standoff as Teddy and Bob aim their guns at each other. Bob offers Teddy a parlay, presenting Anthony as a gift of revenge for his family's murder. Teddy accepts and executes Anthony, finally avenging his loved ones. With his anger momentarily satiated, Teddy makes his way outside and dumps petrol from nearby tanks onto the ground, igniting it with his gun. Flames engulf the station's exterior as he walks back inside. Inside the kitchen, Teddy rummages through a first aid kit but instead helps himself to some food. Behind him, Valerie watches from a chair, her voice cutting through the silence. She accuses him of abandoning the first aid pack and deliberately setting the station on fire. Valerie reveals she has already called for backup, with officers from within a 20-mile radius converging on the scene in 10 minutes. She berates him for his actions, telling him she regrets taking a bullet for him. She orders him to return to his cell, but Teddy, ever defiant, creates a distraction with a small petrol tank, allowing him to slip away. This sets the stage for a fierce shootout between the two. Low on ammo, Teddy scavenges for an upgraded weapon while Valerie reloads hers. She positions herself on the stairs and fires at Teddy, grazing him and forcing him to seek cover. Teddy retaliates, causing Valerie to dive into a nearby room. She scrambles to her desk where she finds her old gun in a gift box. She fires at Teddy, landing a shot in his chest that sends him crashing to the ground. Despite his injury, Teddy fires his automatic wildly, creating cover for himself. Valerie lands another shot and advances, but an explosion rattles the building, causing her to lose her balance. Spotting a lone bullet on the ground, she taunts the injured Teddy as she loads it into her revolver. With calculated precision, she spins the cylinder and fires, hitting Teddy in the back. Valerie picks up Teddy's automatic and aims it at him, preparing to end the standoff once and for all. But as she hesitates, she is shot. As the intense confrontation reaches its peak, a new player enters the scene, Detective Dina. She emerges from the shadows, her gun trained on Valerie. Approaching the injured officer, Dina offers a hollow apology before preparing to take the final shot. But just as Dina steadies herself, she's struck by several bullets and collapses to the ground, killed by Bob's intervention. Bob steps forward, seizing the weapon Dina brought with her. Without hesitation, he fires at Teddy, who scrambles for cover but takes several hits. As the dust settles, Valerie, still clutching her injuries, asks Bob what's inside the mysterious bag he's been carrying. Bob, ever the enigmatic figure, dismisses her curiosity, saying she should be grateful she survived and shouldn't ask too many questions. Bob helps Valerie to her feet and guides her toward the door. Before leaving, he tells her to let it go and walks away. He jumps into a police vehicle and drives off just as emergency services arrive at the chaotic scene. Seated in the car, Bob makes a cryptic phone call, informing someone on the other end that Teddy is dead, and that he has a nice gift for them. Meanwhile, Valerie overhears a broadcast over the police radio detailing the location of the stolen vehicle Bob is driving. Summoning her remaining strength, she commandeers an ambulance, effectively hijacking it from the responders. With grim determination, she speeds after Bob, vowing not to let him escape. The film concludes with Valerie in hot pursuit, the ambulance sirens blaring as she closes in on Bob, leaving the audience on edge with a thrilling and ambiguous ending. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.